Hey, everybody, this is Lori, and I am the founder and CEO of Inclusivity, and we are all about justice, kindness, and sustainable fashion. And this is our podcast, Inclusivi-TALKS. And with us today on the podcast, we are incredibly thankful to have Sun The Pisces. Sorry about that. And Sun The Pisces is an artist, and also it sounds like from what I've read about you, you're a lot more than that. So I can't wait to sort of talk and ask you more about your life. And Sun is actually creating a panel for us for our auction for coronavirus relief. So artists who share. So Sun, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Excellent. So I want to start by just asking you, you are a creative person. Sort of tell me the history of that. When did you sort of know you were going to be an artist and a creator?
It began for me in this particular lifetime. I noticed it right away when I learned how to spell. At the same time, it was for me a way to draw things that I didn't know how to express. So in a lot of my notebooks as a kid, especially in math class, I found myself drawing a lot because whenever the teacher would teach us a formula, I would do the formula and then they would take too long. So I felt like I had to fill my time. So I would draw. And I would draw things that I either wished I could go home and watch on TV, or something that was really repetitive for me was drawing a guy that had fire on his head. So that was a lot of my, zeal, I guess it's what it ended up being.
I was going to ask what that meant. So zeal makes sense. Was it you?
Yes.
Okay. So that was when you were, how old would you say that you started notice you were doing that?
It started preschool. Actually, no, it started at home. So it was probably like 3, 4.
Okay.
Cause I used to have, I'm an artist. I like to use other people's art to make my art.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to use a lot of stencils and things to trace because I don't like me myself, I don't like perfect lines. So when I choose to use them, I choose to use other people's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how I use my sense of reality.
Okay, so you started drawing as young as you can remember, and then tell me a little bit about the progression of this creativity.
So I was put on Ritalin probably around the age of 7 because I was hyperactive. Essentially, it was decided for me that drawing in my notebook would not be productive, even though I was doing very well. I was just moving faster than the other kids. So I filled my time with drawing, and then drawing ended up consuming a lot of that time. So it just took over, and that wasn't allowed in,
Mm-hmm.
school. So
How do you feel about that? Like, what's your sort of take on all of that?
the structure that was made, of course, is being broken. So at this point, I'm grateful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm extremely optimistic, and even though things aren't perfect, the change that we ask for always comes. And that's one of the things that just reminds me that even though at the time they gave me Ritalin, and then I was very uninspired to even draw. I was just more focused on working, but then the working became too much. I didn't even want to play. So there was things that I had to learn, and then I've spent my adulthood unlearning and integrating the shadow side of myself, the past selves that are karmic, but the lessons that I learned and how to implement them in reverse. So
how did you get back to drawing? How did you get back to art after this experience?
So it ended up turning into business and computer science for me.
Okay.
So I found that even though my expression of my own hands was limited in my youth, I could really integrate it through designing like art on software for people. So that turned into a lot of websites. I've been doing like website freelancing for 6 or 7 years. it's kind of just dwindled because I just do it for myself now. But it's just like anything that has to do with online internet design or apps, or people usually come to me for like style tips, like things like this. And it really developed just through trial and error and unlearning what I had been taught also in school.
So, Sun, were there other creative people in your family? So is this something that was really encouraged at home?
No.
Okay.
Not even a little bit. Like my mom. Okay, so my mom would definitely buy me art supplies. Yes, and I had a ridiculous amount. I can say I always had more than enough to go through. Yeah. It was curbed again by, what this IEP plan. I don't know if you're familiar. Just like all of these things that suppress the soul. So
it's not the right thing for you.
No, and I really tried to resist it, but at the time, I was so young and my voice was limited because I grew up in a household where I'm first generation Sierra Leonean and Liberian. So my mom actually came here pregnant. 3 days later, I was born.
Oh my goodness.
And in our culture, you don't speak back to your elders under any circumstance. So especially because I was so young, I was being pushed into what she felt was best because she didn't know how to cope with me because she didn't know how to cope with herself.
Right.
And it ended up just stunting. I wouldn't say stunting my growth, but it cocooned me sooner than I thought it would, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But the nice thing is I have the rest of my life to continue doing the work and undoing the work that I know.
I like that. It cocooned you, and now you're blooming, you're blossoming, you're free. So what is, if you had to give me sort of a core sense of what your creativity is to you. So tell me about your creativity. Tell me about your painting or your whatever it is that you use in your creative pursuits.
So as of right now, I can say my most creative tool that I use is my voice. And it's just, since I was young, I've been really good at sales and I didn't really understand like why. I just like to connect with people. But the way I speak is it's just different. So people either like it or they don't. And that's, fine. So I find myself now using my words on clothes, on my paintings. I've been focusing more a little bit on integrating. There's a whole other side of myself I haven't even talked about. So
sure.
Astrology has been a large part of my life.
Okay.
And I'm a astrologer. I have been practicing for 3 years now. And it's something that I have now integrated into my work fully. So that is my main trade, is astrology. So expressing the alignments and the energy of the stars that, are out here, much larger than us and our small little human problems, but are having forceful effects on us. And just as a side note, what's happening now during this time, the last time these planets were aligned in this specific way was during the 1200s Renaissance. So I really just like to observe patterns, not only in my own life, but also in the larger scale of things, because things like fame and wealth are so good, but understanding the powers of the universe, that's something that it has no real value.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Unless, someone chooses to give it value.
I was going to say, unless we believe that it matters and
right.
we choose to give it value. Yeah. So when you say you use your words and that you've kind of integrated the astrology into that now, so does your art contain astrological words or does it contain astrological messages? How would you sort of talk about that?
So I've taken a little bit of a break from painting per se. I collect I sell, collect, promote, and paint.
Okay.
All of it. Because I think it's all, I think I just, I have a lot of Libra, I have a lot of aggressive planets in my love houses. So I have something called the Aries Venus. Venus is a sign of love, beauty, harmony, all of these things. Since I have Aries in that particular space, it means I'm very aggressive towards everything, basically.
Okay. Okay.
So, whenever I go towards something, for example, like in my adulthood, when I started getting back into art, instead of just like taking my own art, I was like, oh no, I want that. Or people would give art to me, and like I just manifested so many different routes for art because I love it.
Right.
And I think, yeah. So, what was the question?
I think it was just sort of looking at how do you, because you said you kind of are bringing the astrology into the astronomy into the art, and I just wanted to know more about that.
So
I've been
curating some stuff. This is a design for a tarot card.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I dreamed it in my head, and then I had a friend of mine create it for me because I didn't feel like doing it myself.
Sure. So do you have something you did create yourself that you can show us?
Absolutely. What I've been doing is acrylic dripping. That's the last project. I sold most of the pieces.
Okay.
But I have 2 left out of the 7.
Yeah, that looks cool.
It is. It feels really cool, and it's more hallucinetic, like for people who are into that.
Yep.
The next step for me is getting into surrealism. So when I was in high school, I went to Totino Grace, and my teacher really had us dive into Salvador Dali.
Oh, sure.
Well, actually, I could say I chose to dive into Salvador Dali more, just because of his story and what he did, and how he did it, and why he did it, and how eccentric he allowed himself to be. So
interesting.
Yeah, I love eccentric people. I think they're so amazing.
So how do you, I have several questions roaming around in my head, but I'll ask one of them. How do you feel like coming from Sierra Leone or having that background has affected your art and your vision, and whether it's colors or patterns or whatever, or hasn't it?
For me, I would say the biggest thing is because I came from a war-torn country, and I was born here in America, so I am a citizen of this country. Mm-hmm. People here consider me Black, but I'm African, and people in Africa consider me American because I was born here, even though I was conceived in Africa.
Sure.
And then even the African people that do live here, they don't see me as African because I don't do things that are African, per se.
That sounds like a horrible box to be placed in.
I did see it as a box for a while, and now I see it as it's the only thing that frees me, because anytime I'm forced into things, I have escape tendencies. I love disillusioning illusions as well as creating illusions. It's simultaneously important. Mm-hmm. So when I realized my position in and I had to really, it sucked in the beginning because I didn't really have a reputation. The nice thing is I didn't have a reputation. Yeah. So I was able to create one. And now, being someone, you could almost say I'm borderline universalist, but I do practice Buddhism, and that has really transformed and accelerated a lot of my spiritual beliefs. So even when people do talk about things like race or ageism or sexism or anything that people feel like separates us, I ignore it because it's boring. We're all humans. Mm-hmm. And even for the longest time, I don't think the government's had for the longest time my race. I've always written human.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And do you feel like that people are generally respectful of that, or do you find that you get some pushback?
Everyone has prejudice because of experience and their own self-awareness. Um, the people around me, it's not that they don't respect it, and this is coming from a massive level of forgiveness on my end,
Sure.
but I kind of just pardon it because I know everyone's ignorant, myself included. So why should I not just allow people to express what they think they know? Of course, allow them to self-realize. I don't believe in enabling. I definitely do say things, but in a way that it's, would you say that about yourself?
Yeah.
Or would you prefer someone said this about you?
Yeah.
So I really tend to not talk about people unless it's positive.
Mm-hmm.
Just to create, I like to create that type of energy.
Yeah.
You get what you give, you know.
You're pretty likable, Sun.
Thank you.
I mean, it's such a pleasure to talk with you. You just have a spirit that is lovely.
I appreciate that.
Well, thank you for being here. So one of the things that we had talked about is that you're going to create a panel for us, which you had said you weren't going to do much painting, but you're willing to paint this for us, which is really appreciated. So do you have any vision about what you're thinking about right now?
Yes.
Okay. Will you share it with us?
Absolutely, absolutely. So right now, the reason why the world feels like it's in chaos is because I just like speed through this quick. There's
Take
four
your
big
time.
yeah, there's four planets that are in a massive stage of retrograde. Anytime this retrograde's happening, what happens is we are forced to overlook what we've overlooked, like actually look it over per se. And a lot of that has to do with structure in society, which is Jupiter, planet of expansion, and the things that hold us accountable. That's the planet that's in retrograde. And it has to do with Capricorn. If you know anything about Capricorn, the sign, they are very, they don't let you get away with things. They don't let themselves get away with things. They are extremely orderly. Everything must be just, right, perfect, exact. Over time, perfection is created, and they understand this. So that is in retrograde. What happens then is the things that aren't perfect have to disintegrate. So you look at the government and the moves that we're making. The moves that we were making were very strategic at one point. Now we are blundering all the chess moves. Why? Because the game has changed. Things have changed. The world must recreate itself. Why? Because we've been screaming for change for so long. We've been saying, oh, I'm too tired to go to work. I don't want to get up and go to school. Why is it this way? This question energetically as a consciousness has been filling the air, and now it is here. And it's coming through as economic crashes, as viruses, as violence, as war, all of these things that create change for us because we created our reality as a consciousness, and that's how we choose to do things.
Right.
The difference now, though, is because we're distancing, this has to do a lot with the communication. So right now, Venus is in Gemini, and it's in retrograde. So what that is, Venus again has to do with harmony and love, and then you look at Gemini, which is communication and intellect. How we used to communicate what we love and enjoy is in retrograde. Now we have to look it over. We have to look at, am I communicating what I need and want out of a relationship? Am I going to the restaurant and the bar to be with people, or am I going there to create an illusion? Do I actually enjoy what I say I enjoy, or do I enjoy it because people tell me or have told me or I was taught? Did I explore other things to fully review myself from the full? Do you know what the Johari's window is?
No.
Johari's window is a psychological tool. It talks about, it's 4 different panels on this window, like a normal window. Each window represents perspective.
Okay.
So it talks about how you see yourself as a person, how other people see you, how you don't see you, and then the unknown, which is the secrets that you don't even know yourself about, and that other people don't know. They're just things that we can maybe even call generational things that we just never uncover until we maybe go there.
Yeah.
So using the Johari's window, it allows you to have this perspective, again, of being very forgiving, because no one really knows anything, and the people who pretend to are accumulating things that eventually will ruin them.
Mm. So from your perspective, given all of that, from your perspective, what's next? What do we need to do?
So for the drawing and the painting, for me, I plan on to communicate solutions that I have are so radical, but they would work. I know they would work, but I don't want to offer them until it's a plan. It's a whole plan.
Sure.
But the painting is, I'm going to do an hourglass.
Okay.
And I'm going to put some stuff inside of the hourglass because I feel, because time is an illusion, and now that we're all actually feeling, I've always felt suspended in time. So it's really, for me, I'm over here laughing. I'm enjoying that everyone's kind of where I am. It gives me deep pleasure because I'm usually in my mind and focused on how to express. So to see that other people are reaching that stage where they can develop their own persona is so beautiful. Yeah. So I really want to express that through the message of time and how it is truly an illusion.
I love that. That sounds really interesting. So we'll be really excited to see it. So when you were diagnosed as hyperactive as a kid,
yeah,
do you think that was pretty accurate? Not the treatment, but the diagnosis itself.
The way my energy comes through for me is I naturally have a lot of energy. And that is, again, as I mentioned, this Aries energy. Aries can't sit down. If you know an Aries, they love to work. They need to be doing something. They're starting something. Usually, they might not be finishing it, but they're starting something. And they like to have fun. They like to be in front. They like to get attention. They cry when they need to. This energy I have in my ascendant. So I come off as an Aries. Even though I'm a Pisces, people don't even, that's why I had to make my name this way, is because people need to know. Yes. Even though I am a Pisces, I have a lot of Aries tendencies. So that's why I have a large tendency to be entrepreneurial. Whatever I do, it needs to involve energy. And for me, I feel like my value it aligns with things that allow me to express my value more. So that's why I went to school for business. I believe in energy exchanges, and understanding how to do that well is more important. I feel like a lot of artists don't focus on the business side. So I have this spiritual side, and then I have this business side, and then I have this, I'm trying to, essentially a spiritual tycoon is what I'm looking to be.
I love that.
Yeah, a spiritual tycoon who does art, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
So how do you, at this age, do you feel like you have to rein in that energy sometimes, or are you just feeling like you can let it flow and it'll work out? Like, how do you manage that?
For me, managing it is, the Buddhist practice helps. So chanting in the morning for about an hour, Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, is the phrase. It means I devote myself to the Lotus Sutra, the law of the Lotus Sutra specifically. So long story short, coming out of the mud and blossoming from the depths of, life in the.
Fabulous.
So that's what I wake up with.
Mm-hmm.
That as of right now, we've been chanting on Zoom as a community in my district.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing that helps me is I run a few meditation groups. Right now I'm running a abundance meditation group, which is from the Deepak Chopra. And it goes over gratitude and being grateful and abundant and allowing things to flow in our lives as naturally as possible. So understanding that the mistakes that we made aren't mistakes, they're actually just lessons that we use to integrate. And the best way to integrate things that bring us pain is to teach others or to do it for others. And that's the best way to overcome that karma specifically. So you'll find someone who either had, for example, you'll find someone who has drug abuse in their family become a drug counselor to overcome the karma. Yeah. So that's just like a brief example.
So I want to know a little more about how you came to Buddhism. Like, how did you find that path?
I was for the first 5 years in my 20s,
Mm-hmm.
I was in this very, what's the word I would choose to use right now? It was a very attached relationship. And when I detached from that relationship, I had to reinvent myself at 25, basically. And because I had gone through corporate world, I worked for Best Buy corporate, I worked for Hewlett Packard as a sales district manager, and my background was sales for the first 8 to 10 years of my life. And that's because my art had been limited by this medicine. So while I was in this cocoon,
right.
I found myself. Sorry, can you bring me back again to the question? My ADHD is terrible. Thank you.
Absolutely, no problem. I just wanted to know how you got to Buddhism.
Buddhism? Okay, so I lost myself in that relationship, had to find myself. I was watching tarot videos. Okay. I do tarot cards too, by the way. And I came upon someone when I was really looking for motivation, because I was watching a whole lot of motivation. I realized motivation isn't what I needed. I have motivation to do things. I just didn't know what to do. Okay. So I had to basically reprogram myself at 25, which was very uncomfortable, but we're here. So Alan Watts is the individual's name. He's a British philosopher, and he spoke on Taoism, Buddhism, Nichiren Buddhism is the one that caught my attention because he kept talking about it. And I would, for me, whenever I want to learn something, I listen to it while I sleep. I listen to, I just listen to it on repeat over and over. When I reprogram, it's hard, very aggressive learning style. That's how I learned how to learn. But he talked about Nichiren Buddhism, and then one day I'm at Trader Joe's with my at the time girlfriend, and I see this large, tall guy, and he's he's in his 70s, I can tell you, but he's 6'7". And I see him when I walk in, and his back is facing me, and I just notice everyone. But there was something about this guy, and then I'm in the fish aisle. I lose track of him. I'm in the fish aisle. I'm looking at, I don't remember. And I look up to the left, and this large, tall guy that I noticed when I first walked in is right in front of me, and he says hello. And I say, hi. And then we shook hands, and he said, I'm Steve Swanson. How you doing? I'm good. I'm John Lewis Williams. That's my birth name.
Okay.
I'm John Lewis Williams. How are you? He's like, I'm good, man. Something just told me to talk to you, he said. I said, oh, cool. What's up? And he's like, well, I wanted to invite you to a meeting if you're interested. You seem like a very energetic person. I'm really drawn to you. I want to talk to you and see if you're interested in coming to a meeting. I said, yeah. So this is 3 years ago, almost.
Okay.
And I went to a meeting, and as I'm chanting with these 7 adults that I don't know, but I'm with my girlfriend at the time, I'm chanting, and in my mind, I see blue lotus flowers falling from a tree. And I have never had a visual like that from doing something
Interesting.
like that. And chanting, what it does is it forces you to vibrate. Any type of chanting is just really healthy. It forces your heart chakra to get activated and charged. And it's something that I've been so excited to teach, because once you start activating your different chakras, this is how we access our creativity. This is how we access healing. This is how we access universal truth. But you have to look past mundane things, unfortunately. And luckily for me, I love to study. But my attention, because my attention works the way it does, I have to study multiple things at the same time from different cultures. Otherwise, I'm bored.
So, if you were going to tell someone younger than you are, sort of a tip, so something that you just want them to know about life or about how to live, what would you say?
Find a new way to do everything. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Do it your way. But if it doesn't work, do it someone else's way. Just do it differently. Always differently.
Okay. And if you were going to tell us sort of is that also your life philosophy, would you say? Or what would you say your sort of core life philosophy is?
My life philosophy is it is as easy as you make it.
Okay.
And I stress myself out a lot, so I use that to calm myself down. It's as easy as you make it.
So what do you do to calm yourself down?
10,000 different things. At this point, it's really just breathing very intentionally. I find myself writing a lot. I think one of the best things for someone like me who has a lot of energy and extreme ADHD is what, the other people call it. It's having a whiteboard and having places to dump my thoughts. It's so important. And I need that not only virtually, but physically. So having a whiteboard, being active on social media and expressing myself on social media is so important, because I have so many things that I want to do. But one of the things with society, and I'm very hyper aware of my place in society because of my non-place in society, if you don't allow people to see you for what you're worth, you won't be seen. So even if you feel like people aren't watching, people are always watching. And the more you show them, the more they're watching. And that is your reality. Whatever you choose to show people and whatever you are, at some point they're going to connect. So why not put them together?
So, Sun, when did you change your name?
This was around this time last year. I went by Whale for a little bit. That was kind of weird. John Lewis, I've always enjoyed, but my mom, anytime we talk, she calls me Sun. And then as a child, I was always called Bright. Every other kid in school is called Smart or Athletic or blah, 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 all these names, but I got called Bright. And as a kid, I was like, what does that even mean? Like, you're not telling me anything. In my adulthood, I'm like, oh, it's my personality. Okay. Sounds good.
Yep.
So, yeah, there.
So, Sun. That. And then you said Sun the Pisces is because you want people to know you're a Pisces.
Yeah, and Pisces, the age of Pisces just ended. We're in the age of Aquarius. So it's...
That's me.
Huh? You're a Pisces?
Or Aquarius.
Nice. Very cool. It's the age of Aquarius. So this is the time for things to get... Aquarius is the inventor, is the genius in society, the one that people look to solve problems. Do you know the story of Aquarius from Greek?
I don't think I do.
Okay, so real quick.
Yeah.
Aquarius is a boy in Greek mythology, a boy that he was basically a Robin Hood figure.
Mm-hmm.
He used to steal from the rich, give to the poor. Zeus loved it. He was like, this kid is awesome. I like this guy. He turns him into an eagle as a compliment.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, you're so good. I want you to have freedom to fly anywhere you choose. I want you to fly from Mount Olympus back to Earth and deliver messages. The kid was like, I'm super down. Thank you. I love it. Zeus didn't predict, or maybe he did, doesn't matter, that this kid is still rebellious. He's still going to steal for the people that he cares about. So what does he do? He brings this like ancient pure water that allows us, it's basically like alkaline water. He brings it to these people, and Zeus is pissed. But he's like, you know what? The fact that you stole from me, I respect it. So he kills him and he turns him into a constellation.
Okay.
So the reason why Aquarius is the water bearer is because Aquarius is willing to sacrifice their life for the sake of their community. And water always represents emotions or passions or creativity. So they are the ones who integrate emotions, passions, and creativity and the genius and the technicalities back into the world, back into the community. So that's why Zeus gave him a whole constellation. He was he loved the whole idea.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the story of Aquarius in brief.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're the Aquarius.
I am. And I love that. I love that it's the age of Aquarius.
Yes.
If you were, I'm just trying to think of what my next question for you is. You're really interesting, and your story is really interesting.
Thank you.
So I'm just pondering what to ask you next. I think I will ask you, if you were looking back over your life and choosing a story to tell us, and it can be from any point in your life, just something that, the way I always like to word it is it's something that feels like yours. So just a story about your life that feels like it's yours. What would you tell us?
There is one story that this one I use for effect. So now that I've kind of briefed you on my mom and I, we came from a different country. So one of the things is you can take the child out of the war, but you can't take the war out of the child.
Yeah.
So my mom and I, early on, we had a lot of battles, like very true battles. And there was one time where, and this story is, I really want you to see what I'm trying to show you. There was one time where my mom was choking me and she's holding me up against the wall. And I can tell that she has pure rage in her heart because she doesn't know how to be a mom and how to live in this country and how to escape the war that's in her mind. Mm-hmm. And I can see the fear in her eyes. So one of the things about Pisces is we're extremely compassionate. Mm-hmm. And it can be painful sometimes, but we know pain better than most. Mm-hmm. So we endure it. So as she's choking me and I feel the breath leaving my body, I'm screaming for her to stop. Instead of screaming with my last breath, I choose to look her in the eye and laugh. And I laughed as hard as I could. And she stopped everything she was doing and she let me go and she broke down. The way I see this is when something is choking you and you feel as though you are about to slip away, the best thing you can do is to find joy, because that is what will free you. Mm.
Yeah. That's a poignant and difficult story, but I think your takeaway is pretty remarkable.
That's one of my best stories that I don't enjoy telling it per se, but it's a very important one for me.
Sun, is your mom still around?
Absolutely. We just talked like yesterday.
And did you grow up in Minnesota?
Yeah. We grew I grew up in Shoreview primarily, and that's where she still is.
Okay. And how was it for you being in Minnesota? How was that as a growing up experience?
Looking over the whole thing, I can say this is probably the most perfect place I could have been in terms of education and health.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't undo what was done because it was designed perfectly, even though I sometimes say or feel like it wasn't,
Mm-hmm.
or I forget. It was designed perfectly. It needed to happen the way it happened. And we lived in St. Paul for like the first 5 years being in America, and then we moved to Shoreview, and that's where she's been since. So for like almost 20 years.
Mm-hmm. So it was the right place for you to be.
Shoreview, yeah. I got to explore the woods. I got to find ticks on myself.
Mm-hmm.
I got to play lacrosse, and I grew up in most like primarily white neighborhoods, and I went to a private school, and I was one of like 6 Black people, and I think there was like maybe 4 or 5 Asian people in Totino Grace.
Sure.
So again, like my sense of reality, especially with like my ethnicity and race,
Mm-hmm.
I always had to. It was either accept what everyone else was telling me, or make my own world an illusion so I can feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I chose me and mine.
Good.
Yeah, because even looking at the news now, like I don't watch the news, but I have to watch the news because I need to understand how to speak to people on things that are happening in the world. So now I find myself doing research on the news, and it's very dark, but it allows me to paint with my words what I need to say, and then I use my words to create my other art, really.
So, Sun, right now, what communities do you feel you fit in? Like, what are your who are your communities? Where are the places that you feel best?
That's an interesting question. I like that.
Thank you. You made me think of it actually. Just the way you speak, it made me think of it.
So as of right now, I have ample amounts of communities that I'm a part of. How, depending on where I am with what I'm doing, that's how much I invest. So for example, I'm in the OPA, which is Organization for Professional Astrologers. With that, I'm moving more towards like creating leadership and classes and like my own little niche inside of astrology, which for me is I would like to focus on people's purposes and their designs. Mm-hmm. There's something called the 10th house in the zodiac chart, and it talks about the medium coli, which in Latin stands for middle earth, or before you come to earth. Okay. So if you look at the 10th house, what it is, it shows you what your career is and would best be. And also not only that, but what people will give you recognition for. So mine's in Capricorn, so it has a lot to do with business and products and gradually creating a reputation over time, so that when I'm older, people will know me through all of these tiny little steps that I calculate somehow with all of this work ethic. Mm-hmm. So but I look at the 10th house, so I want to study that. Another organization is the Buddhist community. Another organization is I'm a part of the Minnesota Arts Council. I'm a panelist. I didn't do the last panel though. I was dealing with myself. I'm a part of the Northeast Art Community, the Solar Arts Center. I just had some art in that gallery.
Okay.
I have a few style communities, like fashion designers that I sometimes model for. But in reality, I can say, besides all of that, because all of that's kind of like, for me, it's already old. I feel like I've done it before. So I'm really looking to connect more with my abundance group that I have created. It's just people that are looking to create more prosperity and love and joy into their life. And I've also been a part of a few global meditations. So there's something called the Soul Group. So these are people that, even though you don't know them directly, they're doing the same thing you're doing in a different place.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's like at least 10,000 of me somewhere. There has to be. So because we're all doing our own thing exactly the same, we never actually quite run into each other. But we dream the same. We do things similar. And you end up connecting with some of these people sometimes over social media. So on Facebook, I'm a part of multiple astrology groups, and I'm also admin of multiple, and we just we laugh about how the sky is falling apart and putting itself back together. And, and we talk about our daily lives and what it is that we look to accomplish. My goal is to wrap all of that into kind of like a church almost, because I think astrology is one of the things that doesn't necessarily have like a home, but we've been looking to the stars as for guidance through our entire existence. So instead of us looking at books, because books are just, so true all the time, why don't we just look at
Oh, you're funny.
Thank you. Let's look to the sun and the sky and the stars, and they've been around for a lot longer, like way longer than our hands even, I don't know. Evolution's weird for me. I don't like talking about it, but I feel like the best resource we have is inside of us. But of course, we naturally look outside of us. So why not look as far as we can? Because the further we look out, the further we can look in, and vice versa. But if you only want to see that it's raining today, that's okay. I don't judge. That's fine. But there's more. And
I don't want to only see that it's raining today. I agree with you that there's so much more.
Yeah, and I'm the one who's going to tell you that there's more.
Yeah. Well, and you're a very good speaker. Your voice is really good, and you're really good at expressing yourself. So I think if you want to start a church of
for astrology,
of astrology, that sounds like an interesting pursuit that you would probably be really good at.
Yeah, it's a long. I don't know how it's going to work, but I'm just going to keep pushing for it.
So, if you had to name sort of the relationships that are most important in your life right now, what would those be?
As of now, I'm plotting on people that have large amounts of influence, because I feel I have a lot of influence. I'm just breaking into social media though, like actually expressing and using my words. So speaking more clearly about my work, and because I've been doing it in the shadows for so long, because I had a lot of shadow work that I needed to do. But now that we're in this transformational time, for me, I've been retrograding. So now whenever retrograde comes up for me, I move normal. So this is like the time where I'm expressing some of these deeper truths that I have inside of myself more openly, not only to my mom and my family, but also my friends and people who are artists with me, because I also make music. And speaking of everything that we just talked about, I'm learning how to create into music. And it's so frustrating because I haven't really made a song until like last year. So I'm challenging myself to, if I'm going to do it, I might as well do it the way I want to.
Yeah.
And that's talking about spiritual truth. That's talking about the other dimensions, that's talking about past lifetimes, all of this stuff, and planets, and how everything's an illusion.
So do you have songs? Like, do you have things produced? Where are you in your musical journey?
My music, I have 4 songs out on all platforms.
Okay.
That was, I can say, I was just getting some stuff out. Yeah, but now my work is, again, more focused on featuring with people, connecting with people that have been doing music for years and have reputations. I have some new projects coming in that I'm very excited for, with people that. Do you know what Lyrical Lemonade is?
No, but
Okay.
I like it. I don't know what it is, but I really like it.
So Lyrical Lemonade, Cole Bennett is the guy who started the company, but he's very good at making videos look a way that is so unique and exotic as well as explosive that people just go to him whenever they need a really, really good video. But he's the type also, he needs to like you a lot.
Sure.
So I'm not saying I have anything to do with Lyrical Lemonade, but I know some people who know some people, and I'm excited to see. I just like seeing my friends succeed. So
yeah.
I won't say anything about their particular journey, but I have some people that I'm going to be working with on my music, and it's only my first year of doing music.
Right.
That are going to be, associated. So I'm just excited.
So we need to watch for you. Yeah. How would you describe your music, just briefly?
As of right now, it's really introspective. I was playing around with maybe doing some auto tuning on my voice, but it's more just hip hop rap right now. I'm looking to do more psychedelic, more like lo-fi, where it's just something catchy.
Yeah.
But then also, I'm just working on it. I don't know what it's gonna finally come out to, but I just got some new tools and some new toys, so I'm gonna see what that looks like. You're gonna learn something. You're either gonna learn something or laugh. That's kind of the environment I want to create.
I think both of those are so important.
Yeah.
So Sun, I'm going to ask you something, and you can absolutely say no, are you crazy? But would you teach us a little bit of chanting as we close?
Totally.
I'm really interested in this. So I've done a little bit, but I would love to hear you, teach us just something, and that can be sort of our ending. So I just want to say thank you for being here. You are lovely, and I'm so excited to have you part of the auction. And please, as soon as we are starting our marketing or our PR for the auction on Monday, and
that was my one.
And I will share things with you as we move forward so that you can get them out to your network and share them with your people as well. And perfect. I think going forward, we'll probably find other ways to work together in the future. I think you're great. And we'll look forward to all the things that you come out with. But for now, I would love you just to teach us a little bit of chanting. And before you do, tell us why you're teaching us what you're teaching us. So give us a minute of explanation.
Yeah. So in this Buddhist practice, it is, as a bodhisattva is essentially, it's a human Buddha. And a bodhisattva's role is to remind and awaken other bodhisattvas. Okay. So when we come into this lifetime, we forget everything. So the bodhisattva is there to remind us that we are always on our path to enlightenment. And enlightenment in the space that we're in now it's not just going into the heavens and ascending. It's more about figuring out you and how you operate with the world around you and how you can bring other people into this state of heightened awareness. So in a way, it's a little bit of a game. It's who can remind the most people. And the beautiful part about Buddhism is there's no one way to remind someone. So I like to use astrology And I love religion. I've read all of the holy books to the best of my ability. And I think they're telling the same story with different names, you know? And that's the beautiful part about Buddhism is it's a practice. It's a self-attained, self-withheld practice that you can express outwardly. So when you chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, which is I devote myself to the law of the Lotus Sutra, which is out of all of your pain and suffering, because we all have it. No one's free of that. What are you going to do with yours? Because yours tastes different than other people's. So you should serve it to them in a way that, you know, they can digest and process, or not, up to you. I don't know. Depends on what kind of restaurant you want to be spiritually. So we take these beads. So these beads, I got these beads from the last Buddhist exam. I passed it with flying colors. Anyway, so there's 1, 2, 3 here. This middle part represents your head and your 2 arms. This is the body. And then these are your 2 legs. So basically you put your middle finger through each part of the body. And this is how we call this your life condition. You're taking control in the physical realm of your life condition. And when you change your karma, you have to accept, for example, I'm afraid of, for example, snakes. I have a fear of snakes. Why? Because you probably saw a snake bite someone, or you heard that a snake bit Eve, and you're like, never, oof, that's terrible. When in reality, a snake could be a very good friend. Anywho, so you look at a life condition, you say, oh, I'm afraid of this thing, and now I can transform that fear into, I'm going to start a research company for snakes that are, I don't know, uncurable venom, whatever. And then you chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Nam Myo Ho Renge Kyo. Yes.
Say it again.
Nam Myoho
Renge
Kyo.
Kyo.
Yes. And you chant this. You can do it slow and deliberate. You can do it fast and not breathe. Up to you. But as you chant it over and over, you'll hear and feel your chest vibrate. If you say it at a pace that's good for you, especially in the beginning, all you have to do is chant. And what I like to recommend people to do is when you chant for the best possible outcome. And when you chant from that space, especially when you don't know what to chant for in the beginning,
sure.
Even if your perspective on life is skewed this way or that, the best possible outcome, you haven't claimed to who, what, when, or where. So now it's for everyone.
Yeah.
So you chant, and especially when you're going through something, just chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. And the nice thing is you don't have to close your eyes if you don't want to.
Okay.
Because, whenever we challenge things in our life, especially karma, we have to look it in the eye to overcome it truly. Okay. And you have to, one of the nice things about this practice is you become a lion. The more you chant, you obtain a lion's ferocity towards your passions. So, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. And maybe I can.
Will you do me a favor? Because I actually want to practice this, but will you do me a favor and send me even just the words?
Yeah, I can do that.
That would be terrific. And I will, when we post the podcast, we'll put the words there in case anyone wants to practice it.
That works perfect. I'll try to get a book into your hands at some point.
Well, when I pick up the panel.
Yeah. That works.
That would be awesome. Thank you, Sun. It was a pleasure. You are delightful, and I'm very interested to see where you go from here. And I can't wait to see the panel. I think it's going to be great. So
I'm
thanks
excited.
for participating in the auction with us.
Thank you so much for
And I'll
having me.
talk to you again.
Absolutely, we'll talk.